because we do have another session after this one about raising girls. So we want to make sure that we get everybody out of here so we can get the next group in. I'd like to introduce our panelists tonight. This is Dr. Larry Olson. He is Professor Emeritus of Psychology from Ohio Christian University. And he and I got to work together there. So pleasure to have him here tonight. And of course, all of you know
Pleasure to be here.
Mrs. Beverly, our preschool director, and the mother of 3 wonderful young men. And I'm just here just to share insight about raising my one son, because I have one, and follow up at the end. So, what? Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Oh, that's right. You had a counselor, didn't you? Yeah. So we'll just start and we'll present our information, and then of course at the end, as always, we'll do question and answer time. Okay. All right, Dr. Olson, would you like to start us off, please?
Sure. May I go to the board?
You may.
As a college professor, I can't sit still. I've got to have PowerPoint. I can't live without PowerPoint, and so we're going to go that direction here. And I love how nobody's in the middle. Everybody spreads to the side. You know, stay as far away from the speaker as you can get. Okay. So we're talking about parenting with a purpose. Let's see how this works. Doesn't work.
It should.
Oh, try this way.
There we go. Eventually we'll get there. Or is it parenting on purpose? I'm not sure which it could be. I think it could be very well both. So let's just get a few things going here, see if we can make this work. You had the magic touch, and it disappeared. It went back. Went backwards. I got to go this way. I got to go this way. This way?
Yeah. I'll do it again.
There we go. Okay, we're there. Now let's go to the next one, shall we?
There you go.
Hey, a couple of things that I'm sure you might be aware of. You might not. Parenting is important. Okay.
It doesn't like
This
you.
thing's
evidently.
working.
This doesn't like you, evidently.
There it is.
There it is.
Also, parenting is very important, and parenting is extremely important. All right? So we need to keep those 3 facts in mind, and then there we go. Maybe I go too fast. I want you to understand this. You are the most important and influential entity in your kid's life. You, mom and dad, you are the most important entity. We have a grandson. This is my wife, Bonnie, here, by the way. And Bonnie was my administrative assistant for 20 years when I was the vice president for student development at OCU. And I was only the vice president for 19 years, so she was the senior member of the department. So she knows everything and handled all the big jobs. But we have a grandson that's a junior at OCU. And I asked him yesterday, in thinking about this, about coming here tonight, I asked him, I said, so Brady, what would you say has been the most influential entity in your development? And he thought a minute and he said, the only thing I can think of is my parents. Okay, here's a kid that's, how old is he now? Is he 22? Something like that, 21? He's going to be 21. Grandma knows. But in all that time, he said there's nobody that's had the influence on him like his parents have had. And so you are the cream of the crop in that way.
Oh. I think it's just slow. Maybe.
More graceful. Yeah, you want to do that?
I don't know. I can
You
do it
did
for
it.
Can I be your Vanna?
Would you please?
Yes.
Vanna, would
I
you
will
help
do that
me?
for you,
All right,
yes.
then I'm going to get over here. Vanna, you go right ahead.
Okay.
All right, now notice this. Grandparents help. Next. Vanna.
Maybe.
The church helps, we hope. And school helps, we hope. And your kids' friends help. I cross that off, and it says, might make it harder. Okay? Your kids' friends might make it harder. All right, go ahead. You're doing a lovely job,
Thanks.
by the way. Okay?
Appreciate
All right,
it.
we're going to move on to this. You all have a view of God. Some view of God. And your view of God, that is the most concrete, the most influential, the most foundational concept you have. Everything you do, be, think, say is going to flow out of your concept of God. And I've got 3 that I want to share with you here right now. Here we go. Your view of God, whether you're aware of it or not, will dictate the way you live your life. It's reflected in your words, your thoughts, your actions. It's the most changing yet stabilizing concept that you have, your view of God. I've got 3 views of God, and this is from Professor Joe Nielsen, Olivet Nazarene University, 1990, when I did my master's there. He says there are 3 views of God. There's a prescriptive view, a principial view, and a permissive view. And you'll notice at the bottom there, those overlap some. A prescriptive view, a very scriptural view. You remember the Old Testament? God had a lot of thou shalt nots involved in there. If you do this, don't touch this or you're going to die. There's just things that God said you're not doing. Guess what? Parenting has those things as well. There's those things that parents have to say, you're not going to do this. We're not going to kill our kids, but there's going to be some repercussion. At the other end is a permissive view of God. Oh, God is just, why? He doesn't care what you do. You can live your life any way you want. Not really a scriptural view. We go to the center where life is often best lived in the center, and we have the principial view. Don't look up the word principial, you won't find it. He made it up, okay? The principial view of God says this: God has laid out principles for us to live by, and there is freedom for us within those principles without violating the principle. And life, our Christian experience, is best lived in that middle of the road. So, view of God, most stabilizing yet changing concept you have. Why? Because your view of God is changing. You learn new things about Him. You learn a lot about God when you start having kids, don't you? Yeah, because it totally changes your perspective. In fact, you might go from a prescriptive view to a permissive view sometimes, but then you land in that principial view where you have to simply say, okay, is that really going to be the worst thing that my kid can do? Some would say yes, but maybe there's freedom for him to be a kid within that framework. Okay, let's move on to the next. Vanna?
Maybe.
This thing works great. Okay. The goal,
Every
you
now and
ready?
then it will.
Here we go.
Yeah. It's this finger.
Oh, there we go. Proverbs 22:6 says this: start children off on the way they should go, and even when they're old, they'll not turn from it. Go. Moving on. And that's a big job, okay? She's got a big job. So what's our goal here? Here we go. Let's see what our goal is. We want to raise autonomous kids that can function appropriately in this world and that know Jesus and serve Him. Is that our goal? We want our kids, when we were raising little kids, we wanted our kids to grow up to be able to function on their own and do great things. And we want them to know Jesus and to serve Him with their whole heart. Good news. We have 2 kids. One's a pastor, one's a school teacher. They're serving God with their whole hearts. And it's a great thing. Go ahead, next. Psalm 139 says this: you've created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. And we're complicated. By the way, those are not the words from Psalm 139, the complicated part. So how do we get a handle on this? Let's go. Family structure, Ephesians 5. You're all familiar with Ephesians 5. I got a few points I want to bring out here very hurriedly. Go ahead. Follow Christ. Ephesians 5 says follow Christ. The whole overarching picture. Next up, husband, love your wife. Responsibility is on you, guys. Love your wife. Husband and wife, love each other in mutual submission. Okay? Mutual submission. Wife, now, I read this to my wife earlier today, and about an hour or so later, she came back to me and she said, "Do you really want to say that?" Is it? Yeah, the Mr. Final Say So part. And so I said, Let me show you how I've edited it. And she read that. Wife, your husband at times will need to be Mr. Final Say So. She said exactly that. But I had already edited it, okay? Children, obey your parents. Parents, be a team. Work together. Be of the same mind. And the family will flourish. That be a team, work together, be of the same mind. Our daughter, when she was in her later teens, she made a comment to me. She said, Dad, the thing about you and Mom, her brother, her younger brother, we could never separate you two. You always were on the same page with every decision. We couldn't get you to work against each other. And I said, oh, you tried? Many times. But we were always on the same page. And that is a critical piece of this. Grew up with a kid named Johnny Schoolmaster in my neighborhood. Okay? Johnny had the system. Johnny would go ask his mom. And if she said no, he'd go ask his dad. And his dad would say, what'd your mom say? And he would say, she said it might be okay. He would lie to his dad, and his dad said, yeah, sure, go ahead and do it. Get on the same page, parents. Get on the same page. All right, we're moving on here. Sounds easy, right? Here we go. Hold this. Don't go.
Oh.
This is the fun part of parenting. You ready? Mother was preparing pancakes for her sons, Kevin, 5, Ryan, 3. The boys began to argue over who would get the first pancake. The mother saw the opportunity for a moral lesson. If Jesus were sitting here, he would say, let my brother have the first pancake. I can wait. All right? After a brief pause, Kevin turned to his younger brother and said, Ryan, you be Jesus. Isn't that the way it works? All right, let's move on. All right, I want to throw some things out here. We need to understand where our kids are coming from, and we need to understand how we have influenced that as well. A guy by the name of Alfred Adler, a psychologist from back in the earlier 1900s, came up with these concepts of birth order. And go ahead and hit that. And here are just some highlights of the birth order. Let me ask you this. How many firstborns in the room here? Firstborn? Okay. Firstborns, all right. How about middleborns? Do we have middle children? Okay. Did you see the look on her face? Did you see that? I hope you caught that. Because when she raised her hand as a middleborn, she was like, because she probably knows what's coming, okay? All right, and lastborns. Yes. You're somewhere in the middle? You're a twin. You were born next to the last. I'm trying to figure it out.
I have 2 older stepbrothers and 3 younger stepsisters.
Okay, which one are you? So you're a firstborn in the natural family? Second. Okay, all right.
It wasn't long before I became smack dab in the middle of it.
Yeah, there you were, trying to find yourself. Couldn't do it with both hands, could you? No. All right, lastborns, love this. We lastborns. No doesn't really mean no, does it? Am I there? Lastborn, show me. Huh? There was always a way around it. Always. And the middle child was there. Oh, I'm so mad. My brother used to have to, he would grab me by the scruff of the neck and pull me out of something stupid that I was going to do. Okay? And my oldest brother, he was off to college by this time. Only borns? Only children? Yeah. Congratulations. You're like the firstborn, only 10 times worse.
Yes,
Okay?
I would say.
Every child is different. Why? Go ahead. Keep going. Perhaps it's parenting styles. How did the firstborns learn to be the firstborn? Mom and dad taught them how to be a firstborn. How did us lastborns get to be lastborns? Our brothers and sisters just let us do whatever we wanted to do. Okay? All right? Let's go. Are you as a parent? Are you authoritarian? This is characterized by high demands, low responsiveness. Parents are often controlling and expect strict obedience. First kid often gets this from the parents. Okay? First kid, go ahead. Authoritative, characterized by high demands, high responsiveness, a lot of interaction in the authoritative parenting. Nurturing, supportive, clear expectations and boundaries. Okay? Move on. Permissive, low demands, high responsiveness. Parents are often lenient, avoid enforcing rules and boundaries. I was a fourth of four. By the time I came around, my mom and dad were worn out. Okay? And it slipped into that permissive thing. And so, yeah, there's that. My mom learned that she was expecting me, her fourth. She went home and told my dad, and my dad looked at her and said, I sure hope the Lord knows what he's doing. So he blamed God for me, all right? Uninvolved, and we see this in the school systems. We see this perhaps in your school, uninvolved parents. Low demands, low responsiveness, not much going on there. Go ahead. Did your parenting style change with each child coming along? Sure did, didn't it? That first kid, and this is why the only born has this, or the firstborn has the expectations of the parents, because the parents have put everything into that kid. It's my child. Oh, I'm going to give them everything that I can, and you get the idea. Let's toss in some B.F. Skinner here, okay? Another good psychologist. He believed that we're products of our reinforcements. Okay, go. You're getting really good at that, by the way. I hope
I'm
you don't
trying
wear
to
the
keep
screen
at
out.
your pace.
Connect that to a guy by the name of Edward Thorndike from about 1900. He's the one that said behavior that is rewarded is likely to be repeated. How many of you use, anybody that's teach or they have kids, how many of you use a reward system in your home, in your family? Yeah. And the kids, test a behavior, get a reinforcing reward, behavior becomes part of our repertoire. If it works, it works. Punishment should extinguish undesirable behaviors. Skinner said, listen to this, what Skinner said. I heard the man say this myself, not in person. A child can be programmed to be anything we want them to be just by rewards and punishments. What do you think? There is some truth to that, because you can program your kids to some degree. All right, is this in the Bible? Maybe. Anybody want to look these up for me real quick? I had hoped for some audience interaction. 1 Corinthians 15:33. You got that? All right, good. How about Galatians 5:16? Somebody want to get that? Okay, good. The middleborn is coming through for us here. Okay. All right. What do these say? Who's got 1 Corinthians? You got it? Okay. 15:33. 1 Corinthians 15:33.
All right. Be not deceived, evil communications corrupt good manners, awake to righteousness and sin not. For some have not the knowledge of God. I speak this to your shame.
Okay, knowledge of God. When God is active in our life, reinforcement, come good things. God not active, no reinforcement, anything can go. All right, Galatians 5:16.
So I say, live by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the sinful nature.
Okay, the Spirit then becomes the reward in himself, and we don't gratify the desires of the flesh. All right, let's move on to Albert Bandura, another guy. He took Skinner's ideas and perfected a little bit more. He showed us we're not products of our reinforcements, but we do add some thinking along the way. Okay? And that's a good thing. Cognitive behavioral approach seeks to change the thinking patterns. Got two more verses. Anybody? Bonnie, get one of these quick. All right, Val, you got Romans 12
I got
too.
Romans 12 too.
Bonnie, you got Philippians 4:8. When I teach Sunday school, Bonnie, if I don't make her look up something, she feels left out. So we'll include her here.
Dr. Olson, this is one of our verses that we have. It's one of our core principles.
Well, that's
Do
great.
not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will.
Exactly. Transform the mind. Think differently. But that thinking differently sometimes has its benefits. It sometimes has its rewards that reinforce that change in thinking. You following me there? Philippians 4:8. Bonnie?
Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things.
We're going to change our thinking. We're going to focus on the positive things, on the good things. We're going to get our kids to focus on those sort of things. All right? Not like Ryan, you be Jesus, but we're all going to get them all to do that. All right, go. Oh, you got it. It teaches our thoughts, shape our behaviors and emotions. It involves self-reflection, taking responsibility. In the interest of time, you look that up, all right? 2 Corinthians 10:5. Go ahead.
I'll send this out to everybody.
All right, good. Side note, in reasoning with the kids, remember this, risk-taking, the full ability to assess risk does not develop until the early 20s. You've heard the old expression, two guys are hanging out, one guy sees somebody do something stupid, the guy says, hold my beer and watch this, okay? Risk-taking, I'll tell you what, in college students, there are some that do not understand risk-taking. And your kids, how many of your kids ride bicycles and go over jumps and fly down hills and stand on one foot, while not holding hands or holding on? Risk-taking, they don't understand it. And so with this whole idea of behaviorism, the whole idea of changing behavior, they don't understand the risks oftentimes, and they get themselves in trouble. Get yourselves in trouble in relationships. Get yourselves in trouble in social settings. Don't understand the risks. So if you understand that about your kids, that'll help them, okay? Bandura says, we watch others' behavior. This is observational learning. Lastborns are watching everything you do. Being the fourth, I watched what my brothers and sister did and made notes. Okay, I'll try that. And I made notes, ooh, don't do that. Okay, lastborns, are you with me? Yeah, you did that. My wife is a lastborn. Can you believe we got two lastborns living in the same house? Go ahead. Involves observing someone else's action, retaining information, and then replicating those actions. Bandura used the Bobo doll experiment. He filmed an assistant beating up a Bobo doll. You know what those are? The blow-up things that have sand in the bottom. You can knock them down and they'll stand back up. He observed that he did a video of a model beating that thing up, and then he showed that video to younger kids. And they went into the playroom and just beat thunder out of that Bobo doll. In fact, they began to pick up weapons out of the toy box and beat that thing even harder. And now one kid, I saw the video, one kid took a gun and put it on the Bobo doll's nose. Kids are watching. They're watching. Go ahead. Paul encourages us to do that. He emphasized learning through imitation of good models, avoiding bad models, encouraging believers to be imitators of me as he is of Christ. So, how are we doing at modeling Christ for our kids? Let's move on to a newer concept. This is the 1960s. Tune in, turn on, drop out. You guys don't remember that at all, do you? Do you remember that? You remember Timothy Leary? You girls don't remember that. Bonnie does, okay? Abraham Maslow thought, oh, this behaviorism is driving me nuts. There's got to be some other way to explain personality. And so he developed what he called his hierarchy of needs. If all your physiological needs, food, shelter, okay, if those are met, you can move on to your safety needs, okay? Then, after those are met, you find connection with other people. And then ultimately you find self-esteem. But if those aren't met, you can't get to the top of this, because you cannot be your full self unless those lower needs are met. That's self-actualization. Now, what is that? It is a matter of becoming the most complete, the fullest you. Jesus said, I've come to give you life and that more abundantly. Okay? Maslow missed it. Maslow missed it. He did not incorporate the concept of Jesus into what he was trying to do. So in other words, go ahead. living out one's God-given purpose, self-actualization. Ephesians 2:10, for we're God's handiwork, creating Christ Jesus to do good works. God prepared in advance for us. Go ahead. You just keep bringing them all up there. Transformation and growth. We all, who with unveiled faces contemplate the Lord's glory, are being transformed into His image. Okay? And we will bear fruit. I am the vine, you're the branches. If you remain in me, you will bear fruit. Self-actualization in reality there. And our identity, I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. And the life I live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave Himself for me. Whew, I'm out of breath. Okay, can I do something just for the guys here? 10 things men need to know. Okay, we'll get to them here. Just keep bringing those up.
Okay.
Here's what research taught us. Men, and honestly, translate this to your boys. To your boys. You know, you can see this. Men tend to be mission focused rather than relationship. Women tend to be relationship. Men pay closer attention than women, but we have a shorter time span that we can do that. Men respond to masculine imagery, but they're turned off by feminine imagery. Okay? Men love humor. Men like to learn something, then go try it out. Men like friendly competition. Men like to maintain their personal space. What do you think, guys? We on the money here? Yeah, I think so. All right, moving on. Okay, got a bunch more. Here's the 10 things that men need to know. Number one, you are not a woman. And then honestly, in our day and age, boys need to know that. They're not a woman. Your sons aren't women. Men, men want to win. Right? Men want to win. Men need to separate from the feminine. Not very many guys wear pink. Okay? Not very many. I will admit, I have a pink shirt and pink tie that my wife bought me. If Valentine's Day comes on a Sunday, I'll wear it to church. Okay? And I'll wear my pink to church. All right? But we need to separate from that. And that's a great fear for boys. There is a shift, or there has been a shift in the church. Back with Bernard of Clairvaux, began to institute feminine characteristics into the Christian experience. And quite honestly, that has scared men off. You don't see a whole lot of men in church because that whole idea tends to scare them off. Men provide for, protect, and preserve the community. Men are willing to make necessary sacrifices. Men need a beauty to rescue. We've got to have something we're working on. We've got to have something to rescue. And then we have a battle to fight. There's always something, an adventure to live. Okay? We're most fulfilled when we live on the wild side. Think of your boys. Think of your sons. Do they embody any of that stuff at this point? Do they? Okay? Men are most fulfilled when they follow the commander and they win. Jesus is the embodiment of perfect masculinity, that in that he descends into death and hell, there to confront and conquer them. Okay. Here's your to-do list. You ready? Pray for your children. Go to church together. Talk about faith concepts. Spend time together. Outings, fun trips, fun things. Eat a sit-down at the table meal together daily. I know your lives are busy. This was something that we absolutely required in our house. We did go out for dinner. Every Friday night we went to Pizza Hut. Every Friday night. You can do that?
Every Saturday, my dad.
Every Saturday? Good, good. Pay attention. The little things can point to problems to be solved. Talk to your children. Understand that each one has a different perspective. Get to know your children's friends. You just might influence them too. What do you think of that? Our son had 2 buddies that would come and stay overnight. And we just had a great time together when they were in the house. And I'm confident, the one I know that we had a positive influence on, when they see a Christian family and how it works. That can be a very positive influence. Parents, stick together on the family issues. Don't get divided. Okay? Parents, model the best behaviors for your children. But if you mess up, admit it. and talk it out. Parents, love each other. Let your kids see it. Hug and kiss each other right in front of them. Do you do that? Do you do that? Okay? Hug your kids. They might hate it, but one day they'll hug you back. Let's get the last one on here before you take the picture. Okay? Final note.
I'll send this
Final
out,
note.
Christy. Yeah.
Nobody's perfect, but with God's help, you can make it work. Okay? I wanted to give you something practical that you could take home. I know I've given you a lot of theory. I'm sorry, I'm a psychologist. I can't help myself. I have to give psychological theory. But there you go. There's my spiel. Good enough?
Yes. Thank
Good.
you.
Get back up here with the panel.
Mr. Beverly, would you like to come up here and join your wife for the next part of this? Sir? The floor is
my goodness.
both of yours.
He loves surprises. If you don't know me, my name is Jenny Beverly. I am the preschool director here at RCCA. I've been here for about 13 years. My husband Randall and I just had our 22nd wedding anniversary. We have 4 kids, 3 boys, 1 girl. Ashton just turned 20 last week. He's a sophomore at Rio Grande University. Jaden just turned 17 the week before that. He is a student at RCCA and PWA Ross Career and Technology Center. Christian is 10. He's a 4th grader here at RCCA. And Quinn is 5, and she's in the Young Fives class here at RCCA and gets to spend her day with Miss Sarah. All of our children have attended RCCA since either kindergarten or preschool. And I can remember when in 2007, one of the co-founders of RCCA had come to the church, our home church, and he was trying to get the word out about a new school that they were opening here in the community, that it was going to be a Christian school and that it was going to be backed by whatever churches in the community wanted to help sponsor it and support it. Ashton, our oldest, was just about 2 years old at the time. And I remember sitting there and listening to him and feeling such a strong tug from the Lord. And I almost get weepy about it because the Lord spoke to me and he said, your children are going to go to that school. And I only had 1 kid at the time. And he said, your children are going to go to that school. And I just tucked that into my spirit and waited until he became of time to come to school, at 5 years old, for kindergarten. And when it was that time, we made an appointment with the school and we came and we toured. And we knew he was supposed to come here. And since then, that was in 2010 when he started here. And our lives have been changed by this place. Our oldest attended here before I worked here. At the time, I was the child care director at the Ross County Y. And I was happy there. But then over time, the Lord drew us to RCCA. And it has made such a drastic impact to have not only a Christian husband who can partner with you in parenting, which is so important to make sure that your values and the things that you're instilling in your children match and that they are the same. But it also, is important to have a church that, can feed you as you're trying to pour into your kids. But then when you add that 3rd component of Christian education into your value system, into the trilogy of home and church and school, that is something that I cannot describe to you. It's been invaluable to our family. Our oldest looks back at his times at RCCA as one of his best times, and he thanks us daily and says, I'm just so thankful that you guys raised us the way that we did. Thank you for sending us to RCCA. Thank you for our education because it's helped us and prepared us for the world when we went to meet it. And that was something that Randall always used to say, you know, our job is to prepare you for the world that you will meet. Not to protect you from the world, but to prepare you for it, because one day you're going to have to step out inside of it and you're going to have to learn how to function. You're going to have to learn, are my values, not mom and dad's values? Are the things that I believe in the things that I'm going to move forward as a man? Am I going to step out in those and hold to those, or am I going to just say, forget that, I want something different? And we're so thankful that all of our kids at this point have done that. And we are by no means professionals at any level. We're parents. You know, I'm an educator. Randall has done many, many works with lots and lots of different people. I'm a mom, he's a dad. Of kids with various ages. We always laugh because we have our bigs and our littles, because Ashton and Jaden are 17 and 20, and then we have our 10-year-old and 5-year-old. So the Lord just kind of surprised us and surprised us again. And so, but it's amazing how they were just all supposed to be part of our family. But we've had to rely on the wisdom of the Lord. We've had to seek Him and ask Him for guidance on how do we do this thing? How do we parent? How do we make this decision? We don't know it all, so we have to ask the one who does. And I know that, you know, all of us, I would say, if we were sitting here and I would say, do you want the best for your kids? You're not going to say no. You're going to say, I want the best for my kids. And as, you know, we live in a world that's imperfect, and I can honestly say I don't just want the best for my kids, I want God's best for my kids. Mm-hmm. I want what God has for them. And that might look different than what the world may say is important. But you have to learn to say, I don't want what everyone else says that they should have. I want what God says they should have. So how do we navigate through that as parenting, as parents, through a world that doesn't naturally have wisdom and guidance of the Lord? It's dark, it's sinful. Dr. James Dobson says, you know, and I love how every time we do one of these Parenting with a Purpose, the Lord always just meshes our messages together. And he brought up Proverbs 22:6, which train up a child in the way he should go. And Dr. James Dobson always says, you know, find the way that your child is bent. Find out what they're good at, and then steer them in that direction as it's cultivated by the Lord. Okay, so boys. We have 3. And each of them are very different. And I always find that it's so interesting that you can have multiple children in the same home and they can all be so different. You know, they can have the same 2 parents. They can live in the same house, you know, go to the same places, be around the same people, and still be so different. And I always have found that so amazing that God does that when he creates his people, because it's like he puts his own little fingerprint of, you may think that this is how they're going, but this is how I created them. And it's like a thumbprint on each and every one of them uniquely, like this is how I have made them, this is who they are, this is who I want them to be, and so I've given them to you to bend them and steer them in the correct way. And it just shows the uniqueness of the Father, and I love how he does that, because he creates his kids with their own purposes, their own destinies, their own characteristics and personalities and gifts to share with the world. And when you look at them as, you know, my kid that God gave to me has a purpose to play, has a job to do in this world. God created them for a job and a purpose. And I get to be the one to help them find out what that is. That's exciting, and it's neat to watch how they grow up and become the people that they become. And so Ashton is a true firstborn, as he talked about.
Nailed it.
Yep. He is a leader by nature. He's organized. He's his father's twin. He looks like him. He has his personality. He's a hard worker, and he's accomplished a lot for his age because he works so hard to accomplish everything that's put in his path. He loves people, and he loves Jesus. Jaden is fun and he's funny. He is my twin. He is good at many things. He holds the people that he loves very close to him, and he loves Jesus. Christian is determined. He has a deep knowledge for truth. He is a seeker for truth. He wants to know the answers, even if it's just, well, how does this work? Or what does this mean? He always wants to know how things are made. He's very creative, and he likes making things, and he likes to give to others, and he likes to serve. He loves others, and he loves Jesus. Of all the things that my boys are, athletic, good students, talented, all the things, and all the things that they're not, none of it would mean anything if they didn't know Jesus. As a parent, my number one goal is to make every effort to ensure that my kids know Jesus. They'll ultimately go out in the world one day and they'll get to choose. You know, we have them for a very short time where they're under our roof, and we have say-so and their decisions in where they go and who they spend their time with. But eventually they'll move out and they'll have to make those decisions for themselves. And so we have a very small sphere of influence, a very small time limit on what they'll have in our home. And you know, at that point, they'll have to choose for themselves. And if I've failed at introducing them to the Lord, if I failed in instilling those things into them, then I will have missed it as a parent. Because I've only been entrusted to raise, that's my job as a parent, is to raise them and to bring them up in the truth of who God is. And I can't miss that, and I don't want to mess that up. Now, that's not to say that we won't mess up, because we will. None of us are perfect. I make mistakes every single day. I can't control whether they, you know, make all the right decisions, and I won't be able to control whether they leave my house and stay Christians. I won't be able to control that. But I can set them up for success. While they are in my house, in our home, under our sphere of influence, I can 100% make sure that we introduce them to the Lord, to the concepts of the Word of God, that I can teach them to hear the voice of the Lord, that I can teach them how to read their Word, how to make good choices. And we do that every day. We have conversations with them every day. Is it exhausting? Absolutely. But is it worth it? Is it worth it? Absolutely. They'll never be able to unknow the things that we teach them. I used to tell the girls in the youth group that we taught in, you know, that once you hear the truth, you have a responsibility for that truth. You have a responsibility to take that knowledge that you've been given and do something with it. And one day you'll have to give an account before the Lord what you did with it. And so you can't ever unknow something once it's been taught to you, because it's there. It'll always be there. And they can run from things, and they can turn their backs on it for a time, but they can't unknow it. And the Holy Spirit is so good that even if kids stray, even if we stray, He will use that knowledge and He will lovingly call them back. He will lovingly call us back. So here's some things that we have done. I'm a practical kind of girl. When someone tells me things, I like to have tips and tools on how to do something. How can I try this out for myself? I love that you already said this, but be willing to admit that you're wrong. When we miss the mark, apologize. Parents make mistakes too, and we don't always get it right. Kids need to know when adults mess up. We should apologize and ask for forgiveness too. That's a practice that we should never grow out of. It's something that we should always be saying. You know, if we've missed it in any scenario, even if it's with our kids, listen, I didn't get that right. I shouldn't have said that thing. I overreacted here, and I'm sorry. And I will do my best to make it right. How can do you forgive me? And give them the option and the opportunity to forgive you and to put that into practice, because they're going to have to do that their whole lives. Not only are they going to have to say they're sorry, but they're going to have to forgive people, and that's hard. Sometimes forgiving people is harder than just saying I'm sorry to begin with. You know, when a kid comes to you and you're like, tell them you're sorry, and they're like, I'm not doing it. it's so hard to do that. And so,
My brother used to say, I'm sorry, but I don't mean it.
at least he was honest. So, but give them the opportunity to say they're sorry, but give them the opportunity to forgive. If they can make that a habit and something that's practiced, then that will be with them the rest of their life, and then their hearts will naturally be softened to the Lord when they have to ask Him to forgive them. So communicate, and I know that that's a cliche, is, the key is communication, but every good relationship has to thrive on communication. We have to be open-minded, and we have to be consistent with our communication. Kids need to know from the very beginning that they can share with you, that they can tell you hard things, and that's not always easy. They need to feel safe with you so that if they've messed up or they've done something they shouldn't, they need to feel comfortable with you to say, you know what, I need to talk to you. And how many times have our kids come to us?
Countless. I said, that's okay.
Many, many times.
Absolutely.
And so they need to know from the very beginning that they can share with you. They need to know that even when they mess up, they can talk it out, and you will pray with them and lead them back on the track that they have been on without shame and criticism. Be their safe space. Our kids love being home. We have set an atmosphere of peace and love, and we have a lot of fun. We sing a lot, we laugh a lot, we play games, we hug a lot, we work through things. We have tried to intentionally set an environment that our children and even their friends feel safe to come and be themselves in a place that is safe and good. With boys, be aware of their distance. Be mindful of those cues. Some things that I've noticed, I already admitted I'm an only born. So I always knew from being a little girl, I wanted siblings. Because I wanted a family, a big family. I always wanted siblings, and I didn't have that, so I wanted kids. And thankfully, he came from a really big family. And God provided all of the kids for us in different areas. Once we were done, He just started us all over again.
Our family motto, the Beverly household is, and actually Beverly family is, we don't die, we multiply. You'll find us on not just the United States, but internationally. So, we're Puerto Vallarta, in different places, and we got family that will take care of it. So it's good.
Your quiver is full.
Oh,
Yes.
We paid attention. That's the earlier scripture.
But one thing that I've noticed about our boys is they get to a certain age, they kind of want to be by themselves. They need time to process. They need time to think and create and practice things that they're good at. Our son chooses midnight to pull out the electric guitar, and we had to shut that down. But it's just when he's thinking of things, and he's like, I thought of something, I want to play this song, and that's when it comes out. But they do. They want their alone time to create.
Can't you get him an acoustic?
He has one.
Okay.
He has one.
Oh,
Yes.
we take him to the church, let him bang it out.
There you go.
So, but just be mindful of those cues, because it's good when they're doing good things and you've talked with them and you know that everything's all right. But just be mindful of if they've had a bad day or you feel like something's going on. The Holy Spirit will lead you and He will guide you if something's not right. Because the enemy also loves, even though it's natural for them to want that space, the enemy would love nothing more than to isolate them and begin to lie and twist things. So just be very mindful of, when they distance themselves, is it for a good purpose or if it's something you need to be involved in? Seek the Lord for absolutely everything. God is the ultimate parent. My husband always says that God protects parents because He is a parent and He knows how hard it is for humans to parent other humans. Be prayerful, read His word, and He will truly guide you through decision making and conflict resolution. He speaks through His scripture all the time. He speaks through His still small voice. He will, because He's a good father. One story that I wanted to share, and I forgot to do it when I was up here under communication, but When I was first born, my mom was still in the hospital with me, and the Lord had her pull out her Bible and begin to read, and he began to show her about her words. And he said, every time you speak something and then do something different, he showed her a field of weeds, and I was playing in them as a little girl. And he said, she's just playing in all these weeds in this field. And she said, Lord, what is that? And he said, it's her playing in your words. Every time you have said to do something and you do something else, you sow seeds of rebellion in her life. And so just be mindful of that. That's something that she has told me, shared with me as a parent, and it's something that I've taken to heart as well, is every time you say something and then you don't live out exactly that thing, or you do the opposite of what you say, you sow those seeds of rebellion. Well, that's not really important. You start to lose your authority as a parent. You start to lose your say. And then your words don't become as valuable. Your actions don't become as genuine. And so just as a tidbit, I just felt like I needed to share that, because it is so hard sometimes when you're in the thick of it, or you're busy and, you're exhausted. Maybe you are on your kid number 3 or number 4 and life is just busy. Just be mindful of those things, that every time we say, do as I say and not as I do, you're sowing those seeds of rebellion. And those are things that will take years to then pluck back out. And every time those seeds are there, once they're sown, they need to be plucked out. And so just be mindful of those. But seek the Lord. He is so good. His still small voice is powerful. Whenever we've asked him for help, whenever we've sought the Lord, and we've had to seek him for hard things, what decision do we make here? How do we navigate through this area? God has always been so good to give us the help, to show up and help. And sometimes, we have to have hard conversations with our kids, as we all do. You shouldn't have watched that. You shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have said that. You shouldn't have, whatever. And sometimes I don't know what the answer is until I just open my mouth and I ask the Lord, help me. And then I go in and I can feel his words coming out of my mouth. I can feel him saying the things that he wants me to say. And I know that it's him, because I wouldn't have thought of those words on my own. It could only have been from him. And he'll do that. But he's so good. He'll do that for all of us, because he wants us he wants his best for your kids, just as you want your best for your kids. Those moments have marked me as a parent. I'll be honest. There are conversations I've walked away from, and I'm like, whew, I get 0 credit for that, Lord. That was all you. Thank you for that, because it moved mountains. It moved whatever mountain was in our way. Whatever thing was the problem, it's moved it. And they will mark your children, and they will mark you. And you can feel the presence of the Lord, and it's powerful. Boys need nurture from a mother, but they need the leadership of a father. Fathers play such a critical role in the lives of boys. It's really hard to expect boys to grow up and be strong and capable and responsible leaders if they don't have a guide to show them. So if you have a dad or a husband in your life that is helping, that's a gift. And if they're a Christian, that is huge. Partner together to ask the Lord for his guidance and his help, and he will truly guide your path through parenthood. I know you weren't expecting to be up here, but do you have anything to add?
Hey, you put an audible, and that's okay. You said everything. You did an awesome job. Hey,
Do you have anything?
Oh.
If you say it in there, if you have something to say.
You did a great job. I said, but then again, I said, everything that she said is the truth. You know what I mean? Because I live with her. You know what I mean? It's one of the things I consider an honor and privilege. So just to have the opportunity. I did not know that I was going to sit up here, but then again, say la vie. I said, I said, our family, I said, is all inclusive. I said, there's nothing that we haven't, talked about within our home that we're always willing to talk about it outside of our home. We're transparent in the process of being parents. And I know one of the things that we mentioned before, she spoke about it, even as far as you mentioning, first and foremost, is us being intentional. being intentional as parents, because knowing that God entrusted us with these guys as gifts, and that he entrusted us, I said, so we knew we was going to need guidance on how to guide God's gifts. I said, so, taking that consideration, first and foremost, letting them know what you had mentioned before, who are they? You know what I mean? Early. I said, and when they were growing up, not waiting till they're teenagers, I said, but that they knew who they were in Christ early. I said, so our first introduction to our boys as far as who God was, we just said, hey, God made you, he loves you, and he wants you to know more about him. And why? Because he knows everything about you. And that's one of the things we also let them know, that if you ever in your life feel as if this world and the weight of the world is on your shoulders, never forget who you are. Naturally, I said, you had mentioned before, Psalm 139:14, I said, making reference to, hey, I praise you, I said, because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful, I know that full well. And being able to say that with confidence, not conceit, because there's a difference. Because you're created in God's image, which tells them that the God who made him was never in the trash making business. He only makes treasure, and he treasures to have a personal relationship with every last one of us. He makes no mistakes. I said, so one of the things in our household, we make it a point to be intentional when we're present, letting them know that they're present, that they're a gift. And when my boys were little, I always tell them, I was like, okay, we played the who's who game. Who's who in the house? I said, so I would look at, for example, Ashton, and I'd ask him his name. I said, starting with identity, identifiers, knowing who you are as far as masculine, created in God's image, strong, all those things. I said, but I'd ask him his name first. I was like, who are you? And he'd say, Ashton. And I was like, what are you? And he'd say, Prince. I'd tell him. I said, and I was like, then I'd move forward. I'd say, hey, who's this? I said, I point to his mother. And then he goes, that's Mama. And I was like, what is she? And then he'd go, she's a queen. And then when I got to myself, she would laugh because she already knew I was going. I look at myself, I was like, hey, who am I? He goes, your daddy. And I was like, what am I? And he goes, you're a king. And I was like, but don't get it twisted, kiddo. I was like, the only way daddy is able to maintain kingship is by having a personal relationship with the king of all kings. Otherwise, I'm just a court jester fooling around trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? I said, so, naturally, I said, this life, I said, if you don't hear what I say, watch how I move. Just know that every movement that I make, when you look down at your footprint, you see a lot bigger footprint carrying you through this life. I said, and it's not your shoe size. You know what I mean? It's one that's a lot bigger. It's God's footprint on your life. I said, that's actually going to guide you and direct you into being the man that you've been called to be since before the day of your birth. I said, he makes no mistakes. I said, one of the things that when I found out about you, I was like, I thought I was going to throw up. I said, but it wasn't out of, being scared. It was out of being nervous, because naturally, I said, I know my history. I said, and also with my father, I said, and those things that I wanted to not just be good at being a father, I wanted to be great at it. And that's the competitor. We're both competitors. I said, so it's one of the things I said, athleticism, all those things I grew up, whether it be in sports or whether it be in anything, playing an instrument or any of those things. I said, we competed, but I always wanted, I was like, Lord, help me. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. I said, I've never been a dad before. You know what I mean? Naturally, I said, I want to be the best. I always wanted to be the best husband, want to be great at it, great at that, and naturally take it day by day.
Succeeded.
Oh, hey, remind me to take you out to dinner. I said, but that's one of those things that making it, once again, I said, just knowing that perfection is such a journey. I said, none of us are, thankfully. I said, God is perfect. We make it a point to be intentional. Number one, being present, and also being personal. To where each of our sons, like my wife had mentioned before, all of our kids, they have their similarities, but thank God they have their differences. And then God showed us their differences early, whether it be Ashton, Jaden, and even Christian. I know with our older two, the bigs, one of the things we recognize is that Ashton was the type, very meticulous, detailed, justice-oriented young man. I said, so he organized my wife's lotion bottles by color, when he was like 1 year old, 1 year old. I said, so, but he could do a puzzle and just sit there for, he was very patient. Jaden came along, I said, and he was the type that, all right, I'll do a puzzle with you, but hey, let's go outside. Yeah. I said, so I still remember when we also recognized the differences when Ashton, I said, it was Thomas the Tank Engine. I don't know if you guys know any of that. I said, but Thomas was a big thing when they were growing up. I said, so they actually went and had the opportunity to go see Thomas. I said, and they had their hats, you know, they had their little conductor hats. And Ashton had his own, what he said, correctly. You know, so he had the tilted brim. He was like, you got to wear it like this. This is how conductors do it. And then he noticed that his younger brother, Jaden, actually had his hat to the back. And then, so Ashton took it upon himself to go to Jaden and actually fix his hat for him. So he went to fix his hat and said, this is how you wear it, Jaden. And then Jaden looked at him. I said, he was, what, around 2? Yeah. 2 years old. I said, and then I knew right then, I said, after Ashton walked away, after fixing his hat, because Ashton was about 5, as soon as Ashton walked away, Jaden looked at his mom, and also looked at Ashton, took his hat, and turned it right back around to where he wanted it. And so we celebrate their similarities, but we also celebrate their differences in the process of navigating, God helping us navigate our way as parents through each of their lives. I said, because we knew we were going to treat them at 5, you know, or 15 the way we did at 5, you know, so we grow right along with them. I said, but we're enjoying the journey. I said, we're enjoying what God showed us through the process. Once again, I didn't know. I mean, you nailed it. You said everything. And I could.
Are you sure you didn't rehearse?
Oh, hey, I didn't cheat. I said no clap notes.
promise. I just called him up here.
I said,
We
hey,
did just throw them up here.
but you know what? Hey, we at our house also, we also say, hey, you know, we don't try to get ready. We try to stay ready. You know what I mean? so at that point, you know, we're just thankful for the opportunity to be able to share, because every last one of us, you know, are on a journey. I said, as far as parenthood, and also not just parenthood, but as far as your spouse. I said, I want them to know that first and foremost, before they were gifts, I said their mother was given to me as a gift, and everyone in my household is a gift. And I said, not to lose sight of that, even in the process of us lifing. You know what I mean? Actually going through the stuff. You know what I mean? Say, going through the extracurricular activities, high five, and you go here, we go there. You know what I mean? Having you know, making an appointment to scratch your head. You know, in the process of getting back in the trenches and trying to, you know, raise productive human beings. Yeah. In the process of us being in a process ourselves. I always tell my kids, I said, you know, one of the greatest rooms ever created was a room for improvement. And in that room, there's room for everybody, myself included. I said, so if you ever come across somebody that has plateaued to perfection, please take it upon yourself to go in the other direction. I said, because, you know, I don't want lightning to strike them. I said, but at the same time, just enjoy the life that you've been given, knowing that it's a gift. And in the process, you wouldn't have them if God didn't think you could raise them. You know what I mean? Because once again, they're His gifts that we're given for a certain amount of time. But I told them, like, even when they turn the age of the majority, I'm going to hug you, I'm going to love you, I'm probably going to kiss you because I'm a hugger. You know what I mean? And I'm a kisser. I said, and I'm a cuddler. I said, you know, I said, so it's one of those things that we're always telling them, I'm always going to be there. I mean, I always know what to say, but just know that I'm there, kiddo. I said that I'm praying for you, I love you, and I'm rooting for you every step of the way. And just know that what we don't know, God does. And you house Him every day, you take Him with you wherever you go. And as long as you got Him driving, you riding passenger, you'll never go off a cliff. You know? I said when it comes to life and what you're about to learn about what He has in store for you. So.
All right, do we have any questions?
Can you raise my kids?
Oh, yeah. Hey, we have at our house what is called OWO, which is an acronym for Operation Wear Out. Yeah. I said, so the main objective is for us to get them good and tired and carry them in the house before they get us.
But the older we get, the more that they wear us out.
Yeah, there's times where the queen looked at me and was like, they got you good, didn't they? I was like, yes.
But
they'll never know. I was like, as long as they got steam in their little engines or big engines, I try to be the big engine that could.
Never let them see a sweat.
Yes.
Oh,
Right.
my goodness.
Well, thank you all. I will send this presentation and things out with this video when we get everything completed, and I'll just include my notes with that when I send it out. But I do have door prizes before we leave. So if your ticket has the last two numbers, 34, 32, 35, 58, or 60, there are books back there, free to take one of those that you wish to take, okay? Before you leave. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate you.